I want to show you something. This is a video recorded by a resident of Adana, a city in southern Turkey, at 3:25 in the morning last Friday, March 13th. Look at the sky. That burning object is an Iranian ballistic missile that was launched from Iran, crossed Iraq, crossed Syria, entered Turkish airspace, and was shot down just a few minutes away from a base that holds 50 American nuclear bombs. It was the third one in 10 days. Turkey is an ally of Iran, not an enemy, and has never been a target. So, why does this keep happening? The answer involves a military strategy that Iran secretly built over 20 years, and that was activated exactly 2 weeks ago. A strategy that turns the most attacked country in the conflict into the most unpredictable threat in the region. And when you understand how it works, you'll look at this conflict in a completely different way. To understand what's happening, you need to go back to 2005. At that time, Iran was watching what the United States had done in Iraq 2 years earlier. In less than 3 weeks, the Americans destroyed the Iraqi army, not because the soldiers were weak, but because the command and control structure was too centralized. When the United States cut off the head, the generals, the communications, the decision centers in Baghdad, the whole body stopped functioning. And Iran thought, this can't happen to us. So they built something different, something the military calls Mosaic defense. The idea is simple, and that's exactly why it works so well. Think of a real mosaic. Those works of art made from hundreds of little pieces of ceramic. If you break one piece, the mosaic still exists. If you break 10, it still does. You would have to destroy every single piece individually to put an end to the artwork. Iran did that with its army. It divided the Revolutionary Guard into 31 regional groups, one for each province in the country. Each group has its own missiles, its own drones, its own intelligence, its own militias, its own supply routes. And more importantly, each group has the authority to act on its own, without having to call Tehran, without needing to ask anyone for permission. The idea is that even if the capital is destroyed, even if all the leaders are killed, each piece of the mosaic keeps operating, keeps attacking, keeps existing. On February 28th of this year, the United States and Israel launched the largest military operation against Iran in history. Khamenei was killed, generals were killed, the central command was destroyed, and then the Mosaic defense was activated for the first time in history. 2 days later, the Iranian foreign minister himself publicly confirmed the military units are acting based on general instructions. No need to consult Tehran. Think about what you just heard for a moment. No need to consult Tehran. This means that right now, while you are watching this video, there are dozens of Iranian regional commanders. People you will never hear about, in cities you will never visit, with full authority to decide when, where, and what to attack, without approval, without coordination, with no one reviewing the decision. And that's exactly what explains the 3 missiles against Turkey. Iran has no interest in attacking Turkey. The two countries have diplomatic relations, they trade, they're not enemies. But some regional commander in some windowless room made a decision. Maybe targeting the American presence in the region, maybe due to a miscalculation, maybe because of wrong information. And 3 missiles were launched toward a base with 50 nuclear bombs. There is no red phone that someone in Tehran can pick up to stop this. There is no button that shuts down the system. The mosaic has been activated, and each piece is moving on its own. So now, you understand the problem. Missiles being launched by commanders that no one controls, with no coordination, no one's approval, and the place those missiles are targeting isn't just any military base. Let me tell you about Incirlik. It's an air base in southern Turkey, just a few kilometers from the city of Adana, exactly where that video was recorded at 3 o'clock in the morning. On the outside, it looks like a normal military base. Runways, hangars, American and Turkish soldiers sharing the same space since 1954. But underground, in reinforced underground shelters, there are 50 American nuclear bombs. 50. Now, you must be wondering, what are American nuclear bombs doing in Turkey? The answer comes from the Cold War. In the 50s and 60s, the United States made a strategic decision. Instead of keeping the entire nuclear arsenal on American soil, they spread bombs across bases in allied countries in Europe: Belgium, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and Turkey. The logic was simple. If the bombs are in several places at the same time, the enemy can't destroy them all at once. If you attack one country, all the others respond together. It's a way of saying, if you mess with one, you mess with all. The Cold War is over, but the bombs remain. Today there are about 100 of these bombs spread across bases in Europe, and Incirlik has the largest concentration of them, almost half of the total. The bomb in question is called the B-61, and it's not what you imagine when you think of a nuclear bomb. It's not the big sphere shown in movies. It's a gravity bomb, practically the size of a small car, which is carried by a plane and simply dropped. It falls and explodes when it reaches the target, but what it does when it hits the ground is another story. The B-61 has adjustable power. Before takeoff, the pilot can set the yield. At its weakest setting, it has a third of the power of the Hiroshima bomb. At its strongest, it's 25 times more powerful. Hiroshima killed 140,000 people. So we're talking about a weapon that can be set anywhere from devastating to apocalyptic. And there are 50 of them buried just minutes away from where that Iranian missile was shot down. Now, here's the part that surprises most people. If an Iranian missile hit those bunkers directly, the chance of a nuclear explosion is practically zero. The B-61s have several layers of electronic security. They're digital locks that only open with specific codes, known only to the Americans. Without those codes, no matter what you do to the bomb physically, it won't explode. There's even a self-destruct mechanism that, if activated, burns all the internal circuits of the bomb, making it useless forever. But do you know why it's still dangerous? Even so? Because the real danger isn't an explosion, it's something else. If a missile destroyed those shelters, the impact could break the bombs inside and spread plutonium into the air. Plutonium is an extremely toxic radioactive material. You can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't feel it, but if you breathe it in, you're contaminated. Imagine that being spread by the wind over a city of 2 million people. It doesn't kill instantly, but it contaminates for decades, makes entire neighborhoods uninhabitable, and causes waves of cancer over the years. That's what happened in Fukushima in 2011. Parts of the area around the plant are still forbidden zones today, 14 years later. Now imagine that in the middle of a Turkish city. And you know what makes things even more complicated? NATO intercepted the 3 missiles. But when journalists asked if these attacks were enough to trigger Article 5, which is the rule that says if a member country is attacked, all the other 32 members go to war together, do you know what their answer was? They gave a resounding no. The American Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, was direct. There is no sign that this would trigger Article 5. The head of NATO, Mark Rutte, was even clearer. no one is talking about Article 5. Stop and think about what that means. A country launched 3 missiles toward a base with American nuclear weapons inside the territory of an ally, and the largest military alliance in the world responded by intercepting the missiles and issuing a statement of condemnation. Why? Because invoking Article 5 would mean pulling 32 countries into an open war with Iran. With the Strait of Hormuz closed indefinitely, oil prices skyrocketing, and an escalation that no one knows where it will end, NATO intercepts to protect, but does not respond with force so as not to add fuel to a fire that is already too big. And Iran, or at least parts of Iran, seems to be testing exactly where that limit is. So we have an Iran launching missiles without central control, a base with 50 nuclear bombs being tested, and a military alliance that doesn't know how to react without making everything worse. And in the middle of all this, there's a man in an impossible position. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the president of Turkey, is trapped exactly between 2 worlds that are at war with each other. On one hand, Turkey has been a member of NATO since 1952. It has the second largest army in the alliance, hosts American bases, and stores American nuclear bombs. On the other hand, Turkey shares a direct border with Iran. The 2 countries have diplomatic relations, trade with each other, and need one another to maintain stability in the region. When this war ends, and someday it will end, Turkey will still have Iran as its neighbor. So Erdogan can't just pick a side. After the first missile, he gave a speech to the nation, saying that Turkey was taking all precautions in consultation with NATO allies. Neutral, cautious tone. After the second one, the tone changed. He sent a public message to Iran to stop taking wrong and provocative actions. Still restrained, but already with an implicit threat. After the third one, sources from the Turkish government told the press that Ankara does not have unlimited patience and will not hesitate to take punitive measures. With each missile that passes, the language becomes a notch tougher. There is something even more important that this conflict is revealing about Turkey, and it's the most surprising part of all this. While Turkey is being targeted by missiles for hosting American nuclear bombs, it is openly questioning why it can't have its own. In February of this year, the Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan gave an interview and criticized what he called the unfair structure of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. This treaty, signed in 1968, is basically the document that decides who can and who can't have nuclear weapons in the world. And the answer is only the 5 countries that won World War II: the United States, Russia, the United Kingdom, France, and China. Everyone who tried to join this club afterwards, India, Pakistan, North Korea, Israel, was sanctioned, isolated, and threatened. Fidan asked out loud why the rules are like this. Why can some countries have them and others can't? He didn't answer the question directly. Silence was the answer. And 2 days later, a newspaper directly linked to Erdogan published a front-page headline that summed up what many people in Turkey were thinking. But no one had said it out loud yet. The headline said, "Nuclear weapons are only forbidden for Muslims." Stop and think about what that means. The country, which is being attacked by missiles precisely because it hosts bombs from another country, is openly discussing whether it should have its own. Erdogan isn't just testing patience with Iran, he's testing the limits of his own position within the alliance, and using every Iranian missile as an argument for a conversation he's wanted to have for a long time. Now, imagine what happens if a 4th missile isn't intercepted. It doesn't have to be a nuclear explosion, it just needs to hit the shelters, just spread plutonium over Adana, just kill some of the 5,000 American soldiers inside the base. At that moment, NATO will have to answer a question it's been avoiding since the first missile. Is this enough now for us to go to war? And Erdogan will have to answer another one. Do I still want the American bombs on my territory, or would I rather have my own? And now I want to know what you think. In your opinion, how far does NATO's patience go? Will one more missile be enough? 2? Or will the alliance keep watching without reacting? Comment below. If this video helped you understand something you didn't know, share it with someone. This is the kind of content that needs to circulate, because these things are happening right now in real time, and most people aren't following along. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell. The next developments in this conflict will be covered here as soon as they happen. See you in the next video.